G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of the Purple Coloured Glasses. In this video I'll be going through my tips for round 13, how I thought the games went, and Freo's game against Hawthorn. So let's start up with the first game. It was Richmond against Port Adelaide. I tipped Richmond in this game and they got over the line by, 77 to 65, so 12 points, 2 goals. I think there are a few opportunities here where Port had the ball and just really butchered it going inside 50. They weren't very efficient with their ball use at all. They definitely could have got Richmond in this game. They weren't overly convincing. Baker went forward, kicked a nice goal. Richmond missed a lot of opportunities as well. I think Bolton kicked 0 goals 5. There was an opportunity right near the end of the game where he could have walked it to the goal line and kicked it, but went the dribble kick and missed it. So they left a few goals on the table for this one. A bit of chat about the Thursday night fixturing slot. I don't know what it's like in Melbourne, but even in Perth, I don't think... Freo might have had one Thursday game, but West Coast fans, when they had a couple of Thursday games when they were flying, they're not super enthused about it. It's more of a TV time slot. You've got to get to the game after work. You've still got work or school the next day for most people. I know people work like some other types of jobs, or you work FIFO and things like that, but for most people work Monday to Friday, so the Thursday night game's not ideal. And then like public transport in and out isn't amazing, so I can understand why there wouldn't be a lot of people to go to this game. It wasn't a massive blockbuster in terms of who was playing. Like Richmond, yeah, they say they've got a lot of members, over 100,000, but you're playing Port Adelaide, and both teams are sort of just around the outside of the 8, so it's also quite cold and wet in Melbourne at the moment, from what I understand. So moving on to the Essendon Carlton game. So I thought Carlton were fairly strong favourites in this one. Essendon have been pretty terrible this year, and that's pretty much exactly how it played out. I didn't watch any of this game. I was out doing stuff, but you sort of expected scoreline. Then the Freo Hawthorn game. So a bit to unpack in this one. So I've got to think about where my seats are in the ground. I've got members' seats. I sit in the same seat every week, and it feels like I've always got away fans around me. So, maybe next year I've got to mix it up and sit somewhere else. There was, no jokes, 3 rows of Hawthorn supporters, maybe 2 rows behind me. They were quite chirpy as well, and, all credit to them. The game's better with away fans. Just be nice if they weren't sitting next to me. I want to sit in a nice Fremantle-dominated area and just, heckle the opposition players without the Freo players getting heckled by the away fans, So it's been a bit of a theme. Collingwood fans are a bit chirpy as well. Fortunately, Collingwood beat us, but Hawthorn lost, so it was good to see the fans shuffle out, and it was a close game, so they had to stay and watch it to the end. Hawthorn played very well. Credit to Hawthorn. I thought... Sort of that first quarter, I was a bit frustrated. They sort of took every opportunity they had. They kicked 5 goals straight to quarter time. And they were kicking probably those not right out on the boundary. They were sort of 50 degree angle, 40 odd metres out. They're not gettable shots. Sorry, they're not easy shots. They are gettable shots. You probably kick them, 4 out of 10 or something like that. And these were just sailing through the middle of the sticks. But they made up for it in the last quarter where they missed 2 absolute sitters about 10, 15 metres out. So, it balances out, I suppose. It was a really interesting game. Like, I thought we were doing quite well in that first quarter, but they were just kicking every opportunity. It's probably been unfair sort of on reflection when I looked at the stat sheet and watched a bit of the replay. You get a bit of a different perspective. I think it was more our backs weren't holding up as well as they could have across the course of the game. So I think they just managed to get some separation at different times. I thought Brennan Cox played very well. Hayden Young played very well. But I think from a smaller type of defender perspective, Jordan Clark or Ethan Hughes probably just lost their man at a couple of times. And I felt like the midfielders weren't sort of getting back into position and blocking off some of those channels as well, so it does make it quite hard for the defenders. And we have given up quite a few goals in the last couple of weeks against Hawthorn and Brisbane, the more attacking sides. What we've done well is we've gone the other way and also scored when we've had our opportunities. I thought guys like Logue were quite quiet in that first half. Akers But whatever J-Lo is saying at half-time is awesome. So 3 games in a row, we've just come back and smacked teams after three-quarter time. Akers with an amazing goal chain where he took it from the back, handballed it, received it, handballed, received it, kicked it into Logue, who hand-passed it to Walters. That was a magnificent goal. Logue created a lot more contests. I thought Lobb was solid all day. He wasn't as good as he's been the last couple of weeks, but he provided a contest, which was good. And all the small sort of chipped in. Switter didn't kick any goals, but he had a couple of good goal involvements. There was that sort of spoil on Sicily. He just got his fingertips in there and then got around him and set up a Joe the Goose goal. Collier got a nice couple. Walters was good. So it's a nice even spread. We're hard to match up against once the ball actually comes to ground, and I think that's why it's great having Logue up forward. Is it just creates a contest, brings it to ground, and he does chase and tackle people quite well for a player his size. Nat Fife, a lot of talk about him. Goes into the centre square straight away, helps win a clearance, goes to Sarong, goes to Lob, kick a goal. Good start. Thought all round his game was, solid. I think if you watch Freo, he's got a much higher ceiling than that, but he's coming off a 12-month block, essentially, of not playing much football or any football. So we just got to ease him back in. Will Brodie wasn't as damaging, but I think Sarong has been building in the last couple of weeks. So you don't need everyone to have standout games every week, and I think it's been sort of a trademark of Freo so far this year. It's been a very solid performance. It's been very hard every week to go like that's the best player on the ground. So there were probably a few people talking about Brayshaw's game. I thought he had a very solid game, 37 disposals, a goal. But I think Sarong was probably our best midfielder. Cox was by far our best defender, I thought. But Young seemed to be in the votes as well. I looked at the stat sheet at the end. He had 31 touches. It felt like he didn't get that much at the game. But, if he's racking it up, he's a good ball user. So yeah, I thought a solid one. Darcy maybe down a bit. I think someone said he had a bit of a flu the last week or so, and so did Schultz. So there's a bit of that going around at the moment. Melbourne have had it. Sounds like Dustin Martin with Richmond's got flu. So it's just that sort of time of year as well. A few guys are crook and you don't necessarily know it. So just a good game to get over the line. I don't think we were absolutely dominant, and not a different day. Maybe Hawthorn, the ball just bounces a few different ways. They take a few opportunities and they get over the line by a goal or two. So full props to Hawthorn. They pushed a lot of the top teams this year. And I think Sam Mitchell can coach. He definitely knows what he's doing from a tactical perspective and seems to get the players to execute it. So once they have a few more, another season or two under their belt and understand what he's trying to do, like we had with Longmuir, I think they'll be quite a dangerous team, which is a bit annoying because there's probably quite a few fans who are hoping Hawthorn would be terrible for a while, but I think they're probably only a couple of years off being a strong dominant side in the comp again. Then the Brisbane St Kilda game, so I tipped this as an upset for St Kilda. I thought if there's going to be an upset, I think it's either this game or the Melbourne Collingwood game. But Brisbane got the job done in this one. Saints were leading at halftime, a bit unlucky to have, I think, 4 injuries. Then someone got injured, I think, in the last quarter as well. So they had no rotations, or they only had 1 rotation. And really just ran out of legs. Brisbane did have some opportunities to really put the game to bed. They kicked 10 goals, 18, and some of those were fairly gettable opportunities. McCluggage had a great game for Brisbane. Provides them a lot more sort of drive and pace out of some of the stoppage type work. They haven't missed him the last couple of weeks when he's been injured. I think he came back last week against Freo. But yeah, they bounced back. They've only lost 1 game at the Gabba, I think, in 3 years. Not counting finals. It's just home and away season. Their finals record at home's not great. So they go to the bye. They actually finished the round on top of the ladder because Melbourne lost by enough to just drop their percentage. So they'll be happy where they're at to start the year so far at the halfway mark. Then Sunday, not the greatest game. I did watch a bit of it just so I could see how North were going. GWS beat them quite comprehensively. There was just so many times where GWS just free everywhere. Like the man marking or team defense system or whatever North are trying to do, it just, like they showed some footage in one of the shows about it looked like the back line were playing man on man. but then the midfield were playing like kind of zone and running around. Like it looked really weird. But the number of times GWS could just chip the ball around and keep it and play keepy-offs. It was like almost watching like a soccer game. It was like GWS could just go, oh yeah, I've got so much space, so I can just handball it or pass it to someone 15, 20 metres away, run, get it again. Yeah, the pressure wasn't great from a defensive side just to try to win the ball back. And when it doesn't really matter where you're sort of tracking in the ladder. If you get that sort of time and space, these teams just cut you up. And that's what GWS did. They've got enough skillful players, and if you're putting the level of pressure North put on them, they're going to smack you. So they avoided the 50-point margin. They only went down by 49, but yeah, not going good for North. Horn Francis getting a bit of flack. He played very well against Freo. I saw him up close. He's a gun. He was pushing guys like Brayshaw and stuff out of the way. He's physically built. But the season's long. Well, you got to do that week in, week out. So I don't necessarily think he's got the tank to do that yet. It's also pretty tough when there's a lot of senior players around, like not getting a kick. Like Zeebel's not touching it. Stevenson's not touching it. Like you're not really getting much from the senior players. The midfield, LDU had a good game, but you got to remember he's a young player. There's a lot of other young players in that midfield, so it's a bit rough to expect what has he played? 10 games? 10 gamer to come in, be the hero or the champion of your club, to try like win it for you in the midfield. And then you're getting annoyed, he's getting all frustrated at some of the other players running around. So I think there just needs to be a few people at North Melbourne to just put their arm around him and just say, hey, like we're in this together. Like it sucks at the moment. Like that's normally what happens when you're a high draft pick, is you go to a team that's not performing well, and you just have to go through this period and the team will bounce back. If he stays, maybe he'll leave. And then Collingwood against Melbourne. So I thought this game could be the upset. It was the upset. I should have swapped my tips around and I would have had a perfect round, but went 4 out of 6 instead. Melbourne led at quarter time, half time, 3/4 time, and Collingwood ended up running over the top of them. That margin got, I think, smaller at every break. Not a public holiday here in Western Australia, so didn't really catch any of this. I was at work. But yeah, I think Melbourne got the wobbles. Sounds like Petty's off injured. Gawn played through some injuries and they would have subbed him if someone else didn't go out with a concussion. Oliver won the medal. Brayshaw had a very dominant third quarter from what I heard, kept them in the game. But they might have the wobbles and they got to play Brisbane next, and if that could be 4 in a row. Collingwood on the other hand are flying. They're 4 in a row now, I think, and not many teams want to play Collingwood at the moment. They just keep chipping away. I still don't understand now, like how they lost to West Coast. Like perplexing. Yeah, solid team they've got at the moment, and they're in good form. They're all playing well, and I thought that sort of some of the output they're getting from the younger players will probably drop off at this stage, and they wouldn't keep getting it. But you never know. Like if they keep going this way, I'd have to have a look at their run. But they can play finals this year. Like the teams below them, Richmond, yeah, they've got a solid core of guys that are premiership players. They're probably the biggest threat if they just put it all together. You've got Western Bulldogs who played in the granny last year, but their key position down back particularly looks terrible. So unless their midfield, which is stacked, like wins the game for them, like they really rely on their midfield to win every game for them. And then who else? You got Gold Coast. I think Gold Coast are travelling all right, but I think they're in another win back. And then Port lost on the weekend. So the contenders for Collingwood are, I don't think they're light years ahead. Like, if anything, you'd probably say Collingwood are ahead of some of these teams. They've got the better exposed form line in recent times. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's quite an open season now as well. A lot of people were saying only a month ago that, Melbourne will beat, whoever's lucky enough to play them. So, it's now like, who will the grand final be and who's going to be playing who? Anyway, let me know how you thought the round went. I got 4 out of 6. Drop me a comment, and I'll be back later in the week to talk about the round 14 games. Thanks, everyone. Catch you later. Bye.